Hey guys, welcome to the Omniverse of Nick and part 4 to What If Casey Becker Survived, where in this episode we'll cover Sydney Prescott in quite a pickle as Billy Loomis, Stu Mocker, and one other person surround her about her past and her mother and seeing if she'll live. Before we get into the video, be sure to smash that like button and subscribe to the Omniverse of Nick so you can help me make this channel bigger, better, get awesome stories out, and just generally support the channel. With that, let's see how Sydney survives, if she does. The third ghost face confronts Sydney after Billy and Stu show themselves, and Sydney is just so confused and blowing with questions. What are you talking about my mother? What did you all do? Why are you doing this? What do you want with me? And just basically drilling them with questions. And Billy is the first to smile and just look at Sydney. And it's like, you mean you didn't know? Well, wouldn't expect you to. It was pretty neatly covered up. And strokes Sydney and everything. It's a weird moment and says to her, we killed her. Sydney calls BS on all of them and says they're all lying. They just want her here. But the third Ghostface says, no, he's far from lying. And Billy says that they did her mom a favor, flashing her stuff like she was Sharon Stone and sharing the extra motive about his mom and the dad and all that stuff. And Stu would point into his own monologue like he did in Scream 1, saying, your mother was no Sharon Stone, and that stuff. But then the third Ghostface steps forward and says, that's not all. There's something much deeper than beyond what the two of these guys wanted for killing Maureen Prescott. It all has to do with him. He demasks himself to be Roman Bridger, supposedly Sydney's brother. And yeah, we're getting that because obviously who else would it have been? And Roman, of course we know his backstory and what happened with him and meeting Maureen and all that and explaining it to Sydney. Billy says that it was all supposed to go so smoothly. They kill Casey and her boyfriend and several others, and then eventually it brings Sydney to finally face them and just get herself killed. The whole movie trope and what they had planned would have worked, but Casey got in the way. She ruined the plan. But Roman says that it doesn't matter now because it's because of him that Billy and Stu were able to get out. Though it pretty much destroyed any kind of movie career or whatever he has for the long run, he was able to bail them out. But it wasn't easy. Loops and bounds and trouble. He pulls out a movie director we saw in Scream 3, and Stu pulls out Sydney's father, and that all this is built into one gigantic reforming of the plan they had, except with Roman's help. And Billy says, this is one movie that Sydney was never going to get out of. And now they're going to kill her. Now that she knows everything, there's no reason to keep her alive. And now that she's here all alone, it'll be easy. And once they're done with her, Casey Becker is next. And they won't fail with her twice. And Roman says it was never about Casey, but she kind of made it about her surviving that night, ruining everything, making Roman's life harder. And once they're done with Casey, the killing stops there, unless any one of their friends or anything wants to put up more of a fight, like Casey did. And Sydney just smiles at all three of them and says, well, seems like you've thought of almost anything, or almost everything. Unfortunately, you skipped one small detail. Roman just mockingly asks her what that is. And Sydney is glad to oblige, having the hidden gun like her Scream 3 self, and because she's not that dumb, even if her fighting prowess is down, and says, You killed my mom, but you won't kill me. And appropriately fires at Stu, shooting him to the ground in the stomach. Billy then lunges at Sydney, tackling her to the ground and strangling her to death. And just before he is about to stab Sydney and end her for good, he is appropriately shot to the ground also by Mark, who came to the rescue. Roman then kills the movie director like he did, and Sydney's father tries to get away, and Roman even goes after him, but Sydney just decks him square in the face. But Stu is still alive and tackles her to the ground like Billy did. It's a lot of tackling and maneuvers, and prepares to kill her and wrestle her to the ground. While Mark Kincaid and Roman Bridger, they get themselves into an epic fist fight. But before Stu can finish the job now, he's held at gunpoint from behind him, and the person tells him to stop what he's doing and stand still. Stu looks around him very scared and is terrified and surprised beyond reason to see who it is. Casey Becker stands before him. And yeah, this would be a very big moment for Casey. And before Stu can even ask why she's here or anything, Casey just yells out in utter rage and repeatedly starts wailing on Stu's face. I'm talking, she is out of control. She is punching him so hard in the face right now and so repeatedly, because once again, that night with Steve and everything, she tells him that Billy might have been the one to go after her and almost kill her, but they did it together, and that he's next if he's even still alive. She is not letting him out of this, and this was a long time coming. But Stu begins to beg for his life and said, we used to be together, and it was all Billy's idea, and that guy Roman's over there. And he begins to put on this thing at the end of Scream 1 about peer pressure and far too sensitive and all that, but Casey is far from in a listening mood. Grabs a blade and appropriately stabs Stu to death. And all Stu can do is scream bloody murder and beg for his life, but it's no use. Casey is far from a listening mood. And his throat is slit and he is killed, seemingly. But Casey then gets decked in the face by Billy, who then gets stabbed to death and actually killed by the likes of Sydney, getting her kill on Billy like she did canonically, and said that you might have been trying to make a movie, Billy, but your one mistake was killing my mother in it. Now, it's my movie. And it would be a really cool monologue for Sydney. And Roman's the only one left going after Mark and is beginning to get the win. But Sydney and Casey and all them not dealing with Billy and Stu, she just sneaks up behind Roman and stabs him in the head, saving Mark's life, and everyone seemingly gets the idea that it's over. But just then, as all the Scream movies and horror movies do, it's the moment where a supposedly dead killer comes back to life for one last scare. Stu, even if his throat's slit and everything, we know the Scream trope of killers coming back, attacks them all. But Dewey then saves them all, shooting Stu in the head to death. With all that, now what's going to happen? With the Scream timeline all weird and stuff, what's going to happen now with the Scream 1 villains and Scream 3 tied in? Mrs. Loomis and Mickey are still around, and with all that, where does the future of Scream go from here? With Casey and Sydney and all this? Well, you guys will have to find out next time, because we're ending it here. You guys didn't think this was the end of the video, did you? Well, the Omniverse of Nick has a new feature. A sneak peek at what's next to arrive.